one day I decided to quit my job. No, it was 2016 when I decided to quit my job, in the clinic, therapist and all that. And I started my own program in school for boys of color because I was, like I said, I was doing the research the whole time. From undergraduate, I told you that story, all the way to graduate school and traveling the world and looking at how mental health affects the person's education. So, like, I was gaining all of this knowledge and things like that, and I'm looking at it from a mental health perspective as how a lot of black boys are usually, misdiagnosed or overly diagnosed, and just like them 2 times more likely to be suspended and things like this. Just like all of this stuff.
Hello, everybody. Abby here, and I just want to thank you for joining us for another, I don't even know what I'm calling these things, but another episode, I guess, of me interviewing interesting people that I would consider to be unicorns. Now unicorns in a way that they're doing amazing things in their realm, whatever their lane is, be it they're educators or they're just operating at a phenomenal level and encouraging not only myself but the people that are in their sphere of influence, and we want to highlight them. Today, we have Mr. Joshua Quinn, who is a unicorn in and of himself. I'm going to let him tell you more about himself. So, Joshua, please tell us, where you're from, a little bit about what you do. Please share.
Again, thank you for having me, first of all. My name is Joshua Quinn. I am from Jackson, Mississippi. I moved to Dubai 2 years ago. I'm an AP psychology teacher, sociology teacher, history teacher, and I'm also the high school counselor. So, of course, I guess you have to have many talents when you move here, or they make sure that they look at your resume and use you as they please. But the most thing that I do enjoy is the counseling part, because I think I bring another perspective, me being African American, along with other Caribbean as well. So there's a whole lot of different perspectives that students here might not be used to. They have this idea of what mental health is, or what being African American is, what being American is. So I can bring all that together because they're used to a certain standard of what is American, what is their their American education, and I also push them to question their American education.
Well, you just said a mouthful there. Like, you might have to just break down each thing that you teach. But what we'll start is that, we do not have a lot of males in education from the top down, right? So what even brought you into education? Did you start with education? Did education happen to you? Tell us a little bit more about that.
It's funny that I was just talking about this the other day. I was trying to avoid anything that resembled my father. Not a bad person, very, very brilliant, but I wanted to go my own lane. I didn't want to be little Doc, little Keith, brilliant. So I was like, I want to do my own thing. So I started in mental health, of course, and education was just natural. My father was a pastor, and I was over the youth department, and of course, naturally, teenagers and things would come to me, and we would just have different conversations about our experience and things like that. And lo and behold, I just got into education. It felt just natural. It became, truthfully, what became, I was in undergraduate school, and just noticing, just like, I'm learning all of these things, and I'm not seeing myself in the psychology books, in the research. And none of this stuff translating to what I want to do for my community, because there's no one size fits all as it relates to theory, as it relates to therapy and things like that. So I hated school. To be honest with you, I hated undergraduate school. But one day I just randomly went to the library and I found this book on nigritude. And then that day it just became like an act of rebellion. Like, I'm paying all this money to do all this, but you're not teaching me the other aspect of psychology that's not in the curriculum. So then I learned about what's his name? The Clark Doll study and things like that. So now, like, all this stuff is coming. I was like, why are you not teaching me this stuff? So that became my research, and it became my ministry. Like I took that all into graduate school. And of course, long story short, that became my way of wanting to educate others, because psychology and education go hand in hand, looking at America, how we look at pathologies or look at timelines as it relates to history and behaviors and mindsets, right? So coming here, it was just a different aspect. I wanted to merge mental health with education, right? Because a lot of educators don't understand if Abdullah parent are fighting each other at home all night, he don't care about Pythagorean theorem when he comes to school, right? So there's that other element of empowering the mind, fixing the other issues that can translate into the well-being of a student making an A versus making a D. You understand? Because they have to care.
Now, with that being said, I am going to ask you how you ended up in Dubai. As a person, I taught in the inner city for about 3 years, in inner city DC, and I firsthand know that mental health is in severe crisis when it comes to a lot of people, especially inner city students. When it comes to, they don't care about, learning when they're here to eat. You know what I'm saying? With that being said, like, were you in education in the States? And if you were, what brought you out here?
Well, that's a long story. I guess I'll keep it short. One day I decided to quit my job. No, it was 2016 when I decided to quit my job, in the clinic, therapist and all that. And I started my own program in school for boys of color, because I was, like I said, I was doing the research the whole time. From undergraduate, I told you that story, all the way to graduate school and traveling the world and looking at how mental health affects the person's education. So, like, I was gaining all of this knowledge and things like that, and I'm looking at it from a mental health perspective as how a lot of black boys are usually, misdiagnosed or overly diagnosed, and just like them 2 times more likely to be suspended and things like this. Just like all of this stuff. And then like I said, I started my own program, Bars Institute. And actually, I was already teaching critical race theory before it became a thing it is today, in terms of law and, racial constructs and things like this. So I was like, oh, okay, I've been doing that. But anyway, so started teaching in some of the schools like that, and they some of the principals allowed me to come in with a different perspective as opposed to what they get from a book in terms of history and psychology. And just seeing the changes in the boys, like their just mental health, their well-being. Some of them increased their reading levels, by like 2 times, 3 times. So it's like it became a science to me, and it became my passion. It literally became something I was willing to die for. Took them all over the country to like different museums. We did job shadowing, engineering, policy, law. Like, I wanted them to see black people doing things other than chasing a ball. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I wanted to show them something else. I've always wanted to live in another country. Just never had the time, and I also wanted to expand my program. So what happened? So what did I do first? Yeah. So one of my biggest fears was, and this was during the time in 2016. It was during the time when we started seeing Philando Castile and Tamir Rice and things like that. And these were conversations I would have with some of my boys, and it was affecting them, and it was also affecting the parents. So we would have individual therapy sessions, group therapy sessions, parent sessions, because most of the parents were, single mothers. And I was like, well, I don't know how to explain this to them from a male's perspective. And a lot of times I have to have my own therapist come in and be like, okay, I'm pissed off too. So how can I deal with this? And one of my worst fears was losing one of my boys to something like that. Try not to get emotional about that. I'm still dealing with that.
It's real. It's real.
Yeah, so had this kid, middle school kid, real, misunderstood, but just smart. People couldn't stand him because he would give you what you want in terms of grades, but he was that smart. You know that kid. You know those type of kids where you can't stand them because they're too smart. But we would ride around, and he would just be like, you know what, Mr. Joshua, I want to travel the world like you. I want to go to college. I want to do this, blah 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 blah. Because he comes from a different, type of socioeconomic situation, and I was like, man, you can do it. Like, he was hungry for that, and I was enjoying that. And the one time I wasn't there, he was riding a bike with a group of friends, and some men assumed that one of the kids stole the bike, and this grown man came and just shot into the crowd and hit him in the back. Yeah, that was my worst fear, because I was always so overprotective of them. And we talked about police brutality and gun violence and things, and the one thing that we talk about the most, it happens. So I was like, okay, I need to take a break from all of this, and went to Cuba, which is part of my heritage. Went there, and I actually talked to this priestess, right? So Santeria priestess. So she was like, saying you're gonna go across the water, blah blah blah, like all the stuff I've been having dreams about it and things like that, and writing about it and talking about it and planning and stuff like that. And she was like, you're gonna go across the water. She had me booing and everything, right? So it was just confirmation. I didn't think it was gonna be Dubai, honestly, which goes back to your question. What made you move? I did not want to come to Dubai. I'm actually not a Dubai kind of guy. I like to, my folks are like Haiti, Cuba, that chill type of vibe. That's me. I don't need all these big skyscrapers and all that other stuff. It's nice, it's comfortable, but Dubai is just not my vibe. And my friend was just like, you need to go to Dubai. Yeah, I know, that's for them ritzy people, man. But connected with the Black Educators in Dubai group and talked to some of my fraternity brothers, and they was like, send your resume, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to just try it. But the one thing that made me choose Dubai over China, as opposed to salary, China gave me the better salary, but...
They usually do.
But it was just like the unity among the Black community, just in terms of not just being educators, but having different talents and things like that. We always talk about Black Wall Street and uniting and all those things like that. When it's hard to, it seems like it's hard to do back in our country, but here, because we're such a, I don't think we're a small community. There's a whole lot of us, but still small at the same time. But it's like, oh, I got you for this, bro. Oh, I got you for this, sis. Yeah, Queen. Yeah, bro. It's always like, man, do this, do that. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And nobody wants anything back in return. It's kind of like we help each other out because here we all we got. And I was like, well, I'm sold. And 2 weeks later, they called back and was like, negotiated salary. And a month later, like, okay, cool. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. But like I said, I go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine.
So it was just crazy how I was already praying and writing out how I wanted to expand Bars Institute and blend that with Arab culture to see how that connects and build a pathway, between American students and students here in the UAE.
So 2 parts to that question. Okay. No, I'll go with my first question. Okay. How has it been? I've noticed that mental health isn't necessarily the highlight of things that happen here where we live, right? How has it gone for you to kind of be an advocate in that realm with your students where the parents might not even know how to recognize it? So how have you kind of highlighted to say, this is what it is, this is why it's important, and not only do they need it, but you might need it too?
Yeah. Honestly, the issue has never been the students. It's always the adults and the administrators. They're afraid of that because they don't understand what it is. And now because this generation has access to social media and things like that, they can identify, they can tell you what it is, even though it's not the right thing. Like even today when people be like, don't mind me, I'm bipolar. Like, just saying crazy stuff like that. And it really bothers me. It really, really bothers me when people do that. But they know a name for it, even though they don't know what it is in detail. And of course, like you said, mental health is fairly, it's gaining traction here. Looking at the Arab Youth Report, more teenagers are being more vocal about what's going on with them. And honestly, they just needed an outlet for that. Because culturally, they're usually taught, keep it to yourself and not shame the family. Understand? Or because, you're that way because you're not close to Allah. Right? And it's not stuff we haven't heard before. It's stuff, especially as being, maybe if you're Christian back home, we've heard all this stuff before.
For sure.
So it's just like, and me being the only Black American on the high school level, of course, there's that thing about, they have this idea about African Americans, so I'm cool, right? That's already a plus already. And then I already told them from the beginning, I'm a different type of teacher. First of all, don't try me. I'm ignorant. Professionally ignorant. All right? So it's just like building that rapport with them. Like not, still being professional, but still at the same time, I'm learning from me. You're learning from me and I'm learning from you. And then once you explaining the science of certain things, and then they see how passionate you are about it and giving real life examples, whether it's from a Western perspective or the MENA region, they understand that, hey, he's trying to learn the culture. Mister, I have a question about this. Do you think I blah, blah, blah because I feel this, blah, 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 blah. That opens up the room for more discussions. And, of course, a lot of times they can't talk about those hard issues, whether it's domestic violence, rape, sexuality issues, and all that other stuff. But because they know I'm American and they think we're more open to talking about those things, they will come to me in private and just like, Mister, I have this situation going on with me. And I have to tell them, like, I understand, out there you have to hold it in, but when you're in here, let it all out. There's nothing you can tell me because I've seen it all. And I'm not that counselor that's be like, how do you feel? No, we're not going to be in here 5 years talking about the same thing. Like, own it. We got to deal with it. Be honest with me because, like I said, because I've been on the other side before. I've dealt with the depression and all this stuff. Like, I got the experience and the education and the degrees.
I think that's what's different about having African American educators over here, especially, is that we've played so many roles, be it from experience to now having the verbiage to be able to articulate and teaching in our unique way. Because I feel you on that. Don't try me, and this is what we gonna do because I said so type vibe. Yeah. But then having the rapport with the kids to where they know I'm serious and I can laugh with them and joke with them. So with all the stuff, the world, America can sometimes be on a pedestal, or we can just be the highlight because of who we are in that regard. How did your students handle, especially during COVID, dealing with all of just the racial tension that we had going on, especially towards African Americans? Because I know my kids were asking questions, asking me if my family was okay and things of that nature. How did you handle that, and how were your students responding in response to everything that was just televised worldwide?
Yeah, well, so the thing is, I build such a rapport with my students, I don't even have to probe it. Before I get into the classroom, they email, they'll send a message, like, Mr. Can we talk about this? Sure. If we can relate it to psychology, which that type of trauma definitely does relate to psychology. And so, like, we talk about it, and I include it in my lesson plan. I include it in like, if we're talking about something, I will maneuver it in such a way, put it in my lesson plans. I might have to argue with my HOD or the principal about it because it's a sensitive topic. But you know what? I'm a Black American. We talk about experience. We talking about trauma. I'm gonna talk about it in my classroom. Okay. So, like, and a lot of times, especially when we were allowed to go home, a lot of students were like, Mr., please don't go home. Like, you know, especially my grade 7 students, they were like, don't go home because they see, you know, what's happening, and they don't understand it and they do understand it. They understand the what's happening now, but they don't understand. Like I said, psychology is looking at timelines. Like when you go to a doctor, they take your medical history first, right? Before they give a diagnosis or whatever, you have to look at why things are the way they are right now. That's why I always blend history and psychology together.
That's amazing. And good to know that it's being discussed. So, okay, I'll relate it kind of back to myself and throw it back to you. So, living in this country has afforded me to do a lot of different things, especially with my finances freeing up and me getting out of American debt and things of that nature. Being able to buy crazy camera equipment, whatnot. What has being here given you the opportunity and or the freedom to do, pursue, to learn? What type of opportunities have you had just being here in general?
Oh, first off, just off the top of my head, peace of mind. People think that that's simple, but coming in from my line of work in terms of mental health in the USA and just constantly giving to others, especially when you have a group of boys that you have to deal with every day. Like, I never had time for myself, and I just needed that break to do what I need to get that peace of mind. So just like being able to, if I want to, at 12 a.m. in the morning when it's dark in my neighborhood here, I can go for a run and nobody bothered me. And I always give this story of, it wasn't like my first few months here, a police officer like stopped in front of me, and man, my heart like just came out of my mouth, and he was just like, Mr. Joshua, how are you? I'm like, wait, this dude know me? Like, what in the FBI hell? You know? I know I've done some things, but golly. But anyway, and I was like, wait, what's going on? He was like, why are you so nervous? Blah, 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 blah. And I had to explain that to him. He was like, no, you teach my son, yada, yada.
Oh.
So, like, we had to have that conversation. And he was like, I understand. Like, you don't have to worry about that here. And that was like, I had to get used to that. Not being able, when I see a light, worry. Like, a lot of times, even here, when you see the police, they're helping somebody change their tire, or like, it's what they're supposed to do, but from what my experience is weird. And then just like being able to relax or feeling safe, you know, just like going to the gas station, the patrol station. You can leave your car on, you can leave your door open, you can leave your phone or your laptop inside, nobody's gonna bother you. That's so weird. Right? So like, it's just that level of just, okay, I don't have to deal with all that stuff. And then it gave me more time to, especially during COVID, just do some real soul searching and developing what I want to do professionally, doing more writing, working towards expanding Bars Institute here in Dubai. It just gave me that leeway, and I'm learning so much. What I want to do is start my own practice. So that's what I'm currently working on right now. And because it's just way more opportunities here, you know, like we've always been taught in America, if you're Black, you have to work twice as hard. And, you know, when I first moved here, it was a bit tough. It's like, okay, I'm working. And everybody else like, oh, inshallah. Like, y'all about to piss me off, man. Why ain't nobody working? Like, there's no hustle. So I'm like, let me chill too. Let me see what this feels like. You know? And I was like, okay, it's not too bad.
That's,
a little
that's
annoying,
different.
but but it taught me like patience and, just looking at every small detail of what I want to do and breaking it down and work on this, work on that, and not spend weeks not sleeping and over obsessing over things like that. It's affecting my mental health. It's affecting the way I eat. Like, just because I want so much, for myself and to help others, to where I'm neglecting my own well-being. So moving to this country allowed me to focus on that, because now I'm learning. I'm running faster, eating better, I'm always in the gym, and I can be more of service, to young people, because I'm practicing what I preach. Like, if it's Thursday and it's 4:30 and they say, Mr. Joshua, did you see the email? No, I did not. It's the weekend. Do not call me. Do not text me. This is my me time. I'm working on my mental health. I'm decompressing. I'm talking to my therapist. I need my me time to focus on what I need to do. And
I think that's so critical. As educators, we neglect ourselves so much, and we're not our best selves a lot of time, and we crave to rejuvenate during the summer months, which is, I'm excited to be there. But I wish that the culture was different, and I totally agree that it definitely, that peace of mind is priceless when it comes to that. So I thank you for highlighting that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna transition a little bit as we do talk about like the mental health, and we continue to discuss it. What was something that COVID did for you, or how did you cope during COVID? A lot of people, myself included, we were in a house for a long time, for 6 weeks or something like that, 4 to 6 weeks. How were you able, and I saw you doing a couple things during that particular time, but what were some of the key things that you did for yourself and or for others to just ride out COVID? Oh, sorry, the lockdown portion of COVID, because we're still in it.
Yeah. Well, I think that was probably the best time I had to deal with myself. And from a mental health perspective, a lot of times the worst fear for people is actually dealing with themselves, being alone with themselves, and dealing with those issues that you put in the shelf of your mind, and pretend like, oh, that doesn't bother me no more. I'm over that. Your mind is very interesting when you're alone. Because, like, okay, you ain't got nothing to think about. Or you remember that time, that thing that you didn't deal with when you were 12 years old that's still bothering you today, and you still smiling and pretending like you're over it? Let's bring that up. What you gonna do about it then? So it was amazing for me. I had to do some soul search. Like I said, I did some soul searching and see what I wanted to do, and it gave me more time to actually work on things I wanted to do for Bars Institute. So I presented the idea to some of my students and things like that, and we talked about creating different seminars. They wanted to know certain perspectives, well, the Black perspective as it relates to different things, whether it's politics or how we see Arab culture, women, the comparison of how women have women's rights in America versus women's rights in the UAE. It was just, they enjoyed it. Like, it started off with like 8 people and just grew and grew and grew, and they were interested in saying, oh, like, this person is a lawyer, this person is an educator, this person, like, I always told them, like, we not all twerking on and everything and, have a ball in our hand. Like I said, we still have fun, we're just professional, So they enjoyed having those different perspectives, and then, of course, they tell their friends from other schools, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. So, hey, Mister, what we gonna do today? I'm like, Mister's tired, man. Like, and I ordered, just in terms of fitness, I ordered like just a lot of fitness equipment, because I just wanted to stay active. I didn't want to be, I'm not gonna necessarily say idle, But being idle was one of the rewarding parts of being home alone. So that gave me an opportunity to meditate, to actually focus on, okay, why am I breathing this fast? Am I listening to myself? Just a whole lot of self-reflection and self-healing and dealing with I didn't even know I was still mad at that, So I sat there and dealt with it. I wrote it out. I planned, okay, when am I going to come out of this hole? It's just like COVID, yeah, it was a bad situation, but like I always tell any of my clients, there's no such thing as a bad situation. They're all opportunities. They're all opportunities. As my dad used to say, what the devil meant for evil, God will turn it around for you good.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, like I said, it was just one of those things that, being able to center yourself and focus on your own development. Because there's a lot of things that people say, oh, I want to start my own business. Oh, I wish I could do that. Oh, I wish I could do that. And then COVID happens. We can't go nowhere, but there's your opportunity to work on that business plan, to work on whether you're going to stay with this husband that you can't stand or not during this COVID, because y'all got to live together,
Live together for real.
Yeah, right? So, yeah.
That's awesome.
It was incredible for me, at least.
And I was speaking with somebody today, actually, in terms of that, when you're processing experiences, and even if I am not having a good time with something, or at the time it's bad, or whatever you want to call it, a negative situation, and I always take some time to debrief, to go back through it, to figure out what I'm taking, what I'm learning, how I will process that to be able to move differently when I encounter another experience like that in the future, because I realize that life is not a bed of roses. And so it takes a lot to be able to take an experience and actually, deal with it in your head, to figure out how you're going to feel. You can't just see somebody be mad for the rest of your life when you haven't really said, I'm upset with the situation and not the person. You know what I'm saying? So we lose a lot of things when we just don't take that time to be just like, well, why am I so upset? Or why does that smell trigger me? And things like that. So as we bring this to a close, I want to thank you for your time that we've spent so far. What are 3 general tips? And you can take whatever avenue or topic that you want, but what are 3 general tips or takeaways that you would want somebody to have in times like these that could be possibly applicable almost immediately?
Okay. Being present. Whether it's good or bad, being present and owning what's right and owning what's wrong. There's a saying, going back to my father again, you got to see it before you see it, or you never will see it. Right? Or calling things that are not as though they were. That's Bible. Praise him. All right. So, looking at your situation, and this is what I did. Actually, during COVID, I was starting taking courses and getting certification and stuff online in order to improve myself once I come out of this COVID situation. So I'm taking depression counseling courses, neuro-linguistic programming, dream analysis, interpretations, and stuff okay, I've always wanted to do this. Since it's free now because of COVID, let me go ahead and get it, So, it's like realizing, making use of that moment. It's okay to be upset, but looking at the vision that's ahead. And that's also neuro-linguistic programming. I'm in this situation right now. Let me close my eyes and visualize what I want to see once I come out of this situation. You understand what I'm saying? How much money I want to make. What does my happiness look like? Do I want to take this friend with me out of this COVID situation because they're not a good friend within the COVID situation? Like I said, it's always doing that soul searching. We're limited right now. And it's also a blessing because now you have to reflect on what you truly want, what is truly going to make you happy when we get to go outside again. Right? And in terms of also wearing this mask. And I use that same scenario. The mask that we wear still hiding the other mask that we wear. Right? Realizing what you've been holding on to for years And now you have to sit with yourself and say, hey, I want to heal myself from this. I'm stuck in this house. It's just me and God, whoever you believe in. I'm going to sit here and cry, but I'm not going to sit here and cry for long. Because, at the end of the day, it's just you. So you have to start learning how to heal yourself. If everybody says if we were made in his image, then call us by our name. Like if you have that, if we're created in his image and we say he's God of healing and all this other stuff like that, don't we have those same aspects spiritually and naturally, right? Just like your body. Once you go outside and you start sweating, that's literally your body trying to heal itself. It's saying, okay, wait, this temperature is a little bit off balance. So let the body sweat so I can bring you back to your natural balance. We already have this stuff within us already. That's why I said self-reflection. Paying attention to everything. Paying attention to your breathing pattern. Paying attention to your heartbeat. All this stuff you're taking back control of because we're so focused on the external stuff. And we're wearing this mask and like, oh, I'm fine, I'm all right. And once you get by yourself, that's when I was about to say the S word, but things start to hit the fan. So yeah, just being bold enough and having the audacity to want to heal yourself. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So, Mr. Quinn, can you please tell us where we can find more of you, where people can follow you, where they can learn more about the program that you're developing, how they can get in contact with you, things of that nature?
Okay. My Instagram is Bars Institute, BARSINSTITUTEINC, Bars Institute Inc. That's the Instagram and the Facebook. If you want to follow just me, that's fine too. That's J_Sapio, SAPIO, J_Sapio. And that's it.
Awesome. Well, once again, I want to thank you so much for your time and your insight. I look forward to seeing more of the things that you put together and you achieve here in the UAE or wherever you end up. And for everybody else, things that you do, just go ahead and comment below on things that you do to find your balance, to be present. What are some of the things that you do to practice your mental health? I'd love to hear more below. And hopefully we get to have another conversation soon about the amazing things that you're doing here in the UAE. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.